When did the passion for photography start?
Most of what I've done in terms of photography has been with parks like Samburu, Masai Mara, and Amboseli. I love those three locations.
Abdicated intelligence.
A book that was just released in late June.
June of this year.
June of this year, and it's a collection of selected poems that I have written over a period of years.
I'm going to take you back a little bit, Victor, to the time when you're getting your appointment as the Unhabited Deputy Director. How did that moment feel for you?
I was very happy. I was actually over the moon. Plus, it also gave me a chance to come back to Nairobi and serve in Nairobi again.
Many of us are so accustomed to work, but have you ever thought what you're going to do after that work is over? Yes, today we sit down with Victor KISOB, who's worked in the United Nations for over 32 years and doesn't help it, but has a life away from work. Victor shares with me a lot internationally and even locally. We talk about democracy, we speak about international governance, and so much more about his photography and the books that he's been able to do even while just seated at the comfort of his house. I hope you learned something from Victor KISOB's story, and I hope you enjoy it. So it's nice to see you today, Victor. How has been the going since retirement?
It's been phenomenal. I've been enjoying every single minute of it. Actually, I think retirement is one of the best kept secrets.
Really?
But to get there, you have to go through some hurdles. You have to earn it, I think. But it should not be seen as retiring from life. It's basically switching gears and looking for something else that you've always enjoyed doing but never really had the time to do. And I happen to be in that position now where I can get up in the morning and decide what's on for today and get on with it, you know. So. But there are moments where I think, and I say, okay, what do I want to do in August or September? And I plan for that as well and go off and do it, you know. But it's been phenomenal. I've really enjoyed every single minute. And, you know, Kenya is a great place to retire. Lovely weather. You can't beat it.
You can't beat it.
You can't beat it.
And this is coming from somebody who's globe-trotted all across the world. So it's nice to hear that. So it's about you and photography. I understand that is what's keeping you as well in your retirement.
Well, yes.
When did the passion for photography start?
Oh, it's been decades.
Really?
You know, yeah. And you've got such an environment where it's filled with wildlife and landscapes, you know, at your fingertips. You know, you can just go off and whether it's Nairobi National Park. But most of what I've done in terms of photography has been with parks like Samburu, Masai Mara, and Amboseli. I love those three locations. So I gallivant every so often and capture wildlife. And in fact, I'm in the process of finalizing a wildlife coffee table book. I've got the galley, in fact, it's right here next to me. It's a massive thing. But in fact, before I even do that, before I get to that, I want to give you this.
Abdicated intelligence.
Right, so this is a little gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
It is a book that was just released in late June.
June of this year.
June of this year, and it's a collection of selected poems that I have written over a period of years. And of course, with retirement, I have a lot of time now to sit back, edit, reflect on some of them, toss out some and say, no, this is no longer appropriate in terms of my thinking. But they tend to be mostly about societal issues, some of the global challenges and threats that we as society have to ponder and think of how best to deal with them.
Yeah.
You know, so they range from things like climate change, terrorism, extreme poverty, homelessness, and, you know, overall how we as human beings interact with each other.
Have you confined this intelligence into just the African societal issue, or is it a global societal
It's
issue?
global. It's also African in certain aspects. There's a poem in there called African Time, which deals with this notion that we don't respect time. Some people look at it as a cultural trait of sorts.
Yeah.
So I tackled that in my own way with a sense of humor as to what I believe African time signifies. But there are things in there like one of my favorites. When people ask me which one is my favorite, it varies, of course,
Yeah,
depending
I'm gonna go through them, of
on
course.
the day.
Yeah.
But there's one in there called Sunrise Gospel, which is, in essence has to do with the issue of climate change.
Yeah.
And for me, it's something that
Wow.
requires our attention, and I think it needs more of the attention of Africans than it's receiving right now. And in fact, if I go into my mental database now and I try and remember what the final stanza of that particular poem, it goes as this. It says, "A gospel born of dawning light urges the world to set things right. The age of reason must embrace the charge to save the human race."
Wow.
That basically, for me, tells you everything that we need to do as society. If we just simply see what happens every day when you wake up, the signs that are there for us, and even in this neighborhood, all the floods that we experienced just 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So I've tried to reflect on a lot of these things, and I've tried to put down my thoughts to share with people who are of like minds, and see whether it resonates with them as well. So that's published, as I said, and then of course I got this, which is a galley, and I don't know if I can lift this up. This
Safari.
one is what I call the Graphis Safari.
Yeah.
And it's, as I said, it's being finalized.
That to me was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, this photo, I call it, they come in all sizes. You can see the elephants cascading. But that's taken some time to do, of course, since I retired, going out there, doing the shots and then compiling them. So it's taking a little bit longer to get this one done because it's something that I want to share also with society. And, so these are the things that keep me busy.
So which one started, Victor? Is it the photography that came first or the author in you that came first?
Well, when you work in an organization where you spend a lot of time writing reports and reviewing things and providing commentary, you do that sort of writing. But I found that a lot of the times I would scribble on a piece of paper, and then of course with the advent of things like iPads and basically IT-related platforms, I started jotting down my ideas, and sometimes it may just start with a simple one line or a whole stanza, and then from there later on I start developing it and putting more ideas together. So you go to school, you learn some fundamentals, and then you have to decide whether you're working in an environment that permits you to use it, or it sort of remains in you. It doesn't disappear.
Yeah,
It's always there.
Yeah.
It's just a question of whether you have the opportunity to write it and share it with people. So I recall in 2019 when we had the first Unhabited assembly. Towards the end of the week, there was an entertainment event portion, and I remember getting on stage with the executive director Maimouna Sharif, and we did a rap together. So
Yeah.
rapping is actually verse.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. So we've had that opportunity to share with people, that sort of thing, and it brings a lot of joy. It gives a lot of satisfaction.
It does. How many books are we speaking about? And do you have a particular area that you focus on. Of course, you told me about the poetry in abdicated intelligence, that there's, diverse issues that you speak about. However, when we look at the rest of your publications or the rest of the books that you have out and hopefully getting to release soon, do you have a particular area that you're focusing on?
I focus on what I see day to day.
I see, great.
Depending on what comes up, somebody may just even make a snide remark.
Yeah, so it's sort of an open thought.
And it triggers, for instance, I've actually started working on a second book that should probably be out next year. I'm not going to rush it, but in that already I have written on some social issues, what I was brought up believing was bad manners, if you know what, and how we tolerate bad manners these days when we shouldn't be. And it's a question of upbringing. And I don't know whether it's social media has something to do with it, or just the fact that people have that platform now to really show their true colors, if you know what I mean by that.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the poems in the new book is called The Revolt of Sensibilities, okay, and it touches on some of these issues. So as I said, in general, it tends to be things that mean something to me, that I focus on, that I have either a pet peeve about, or, as I say, the things that I would like to advocate for and make sure that society, my own contribution to making sure that society is responding to it appropriately. So in this book that I've just handed to you, there's a poem in there called Our Common Agenda. And we've got heads of states meeting in New York in September to address the future summit. And I think that it's important for us to advocate for some of the key agenda items that are in the Secretary General's report to member states. There's a poem in there called The Missing Responsibility, and it touches on the intergenerational injustice that I see. If we continue down the path that we have chosen right now for this planet, I don't see what we're leaving for future generations. So again, I think it's important for these sorts of things to be put out there and be debated, so but again, it's not all despair. I mean, there's some things that I think that I just love sharing with the world. My love for jazz, and my pet peeve is daylight savings time. So I've written something about daylight savings time. Get rid of it, So, but of course, you do it a little bit of tongue in cheek, and you add some wit to it, and hopefully people find it as tongue in cheek as I do, So it's that sort of thing. It's just the joy of being able to put pen to paper and share it with people. So that's what it's all about for me.
I mean, I've been lucky to get a copy of your book, and I'm wondering about the Graphis Safari and many of your books. Have you put them out there, on shelves or whatever for people to get access to?
Well, the Abdicated Intelligence is currently on Amazon.
Oh,
you can get it on Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk.
Yes.
It's also available locally in Nairobi at Nuria Bookstore. I think it's on Moy Avenue. Yeah. And they also do online sales, so you don't necessarily have to go all the way to Moy Avenue. So that's on the bookshelves on sale. The Graphis Safari, as I said, it's almost completed. This is what I picked up and held up is a galley, as I would call it. It's a proof that I'm going through to make sure that everything is aligned the way that I want it to be. So what I've done with that book is I've also included some verse on the specific animal in the photo, and I think it's good for kids to be able to see the photo and then ponder, on my words to see what I'm trying to get at regarding. But it in essence captures what I was experiencing at the time when I took the photo. So it's that sort of thing that I've been trying to finalize. It's not just a matter of taking photos. It's also a question of what are you conveying to people, with the photos.
I'm going to take you back a little bit, Victor, to the time when you're getting your appointment as the Unhabited Deputy Director. How did that moment feel for you?
Well, actually, I thought at the time when it happened in 2018, it was a recognition of what I would be able to do. And it was always to work in an area that I always found very interesting. I've always been a big proponent of urbanization and affordable housing, so I was very happy. I was actually over the moon. Plus, it also gave me a chance to come back to Nairobi and serve in Nairobi again.
At the time, where were you?
I was in New York.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I was in New York, and I'd been in New York for about 10 years at the time. And so it was good to have that opportunity to come to Nairobi and serve in this particular capacity. And so I have fond memories of going to work. It's always been an invigorating thing to do. Again, when you do a job that you enjoy, you get up with a little bit of a bounce in the morning.
Which is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it's been so far.
Your diversity, because you've been all over working on different, working in different organizations, and most importantly, focusing in different areas. But I'd like you to take me through international governance, for instance, which I know you're such an expert in, if I may, because you're a doctor, that you don't want me to call you a doctor,
No,
Victor.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm an economist. That's my training.
And we are looking at what's happening, globally, issues of insecurity and bad governance, quote unquote, and the fact that you work in Gaza and Israel. You know where I'm headed to. What would you say has changed drastically that you think can be done better?
Well, I would say on the issue of Israel and Gaza, there's a poem in the book. You should read the poem.
Yeah,
it's called Partition Plan.
Yeah.
I think it's better to read that, put things in perspective, and you'll understand where I believe we need to go forward with that particular issue. On international governance, I believe that the United Nations has a very critical role to play in fostering some of the change that we want to see in the world. What we need to do is to really work hard to get the 193 member states to agree on the way forward on many things. Okay, so little differences here and there can delay critical decisions that are needed in the world. But I put my faith in the United Nations. And of course, some individuals have read some of the poems in there. They say, there's a lot of despair. I say, but the despair always is coupled with hope, So there's a poem called The Tapestry of Hope. There are lots of things that we can do. United, the collective intelligence of our member states will lead us in the right direction. So I do not see any other substitute for the United Nations.
But just not to castigate the UN, really. But, most people would argue that the UN has been there for ages. But why are we still facing the same problems over and over again, And in terms of, economic instability, peace and security, these are things that, they are not just emerging from nowhere. Not new countries, for instance.
Well, it always comes back to the consequences of slight. If there are some people on the planet who believe that they have been disadvantaged year after year after year, they start fighting. And so it's time for us to look at where do we have inequalities, where do we have people who've been trampled upon, you know. Why do you have individuals cross borders and become refugees? Yeah. You know, so we have to look at some of the fundamental problems that plague, you know, the world. There's crises propping up all over the place, you know. We're still in Congo, okay? Yeah. In 1961, 1962, we were in Congo. And one of the best resolutions I think ever drafted was Resolution 169. And it gave the Secretary General quite a lot of authority to address the issue of the Congo at the time. You would think that after 60 years,
will be okay.
We would still not be in the Congo, but it's a different type of issue now, although in the same region of Congo. So it's not that what they did in 1960, 61, 62 was not meaningful. It was at that time. But there has to be a lot of soul-searching within the African continent itself. And we have the African Union, and hopefully we can have, you know, meaningful discussions at the African Union as to African problems, okay?
At 63, what has been the most outstanding event in your life? The one that you look back and, you know, you just can't get it out of your mind.
I actually experienced what they call PTSD, and I didn't even know I had PTSD. And that had to do with my time in Ethiopia. And in 1991, we were forced to evacuate all staff and family members to Nairobi from Addis Ababa.
Yeah.
And I was tasked with working on the evacuation and coordinating how we got that done, you know, with flights to Nairobi from Addis. Yeah. And I ended up not leaving Addis and sleeping in the office, in fact. And I remember one day the office complex was overrun by the incoming forces, and went downstairs to tell them that, look, this area here, this thing is the United Nations. And youngish soldier, must have been in their teens, put a gun in my face. And well, when they suddenly realized it was the United Nations, instead what they ended up doing was protect the UN complex. And I left, when things sort of quietened down, I left Addis and I went to the States, and I think I must have spent the 2-3 weeks vegetating, just getting up in the morning, eating, and then, you know, passing out. Yeah. And I really could not explain at the time to myself what it was, but then later on it dawned on me that what I'd been through was PTSD. I don't think in 1991 people necessarily labeled things that way, but I think we were able to relocate about 1,200 individuals to Nairobi at that time. And it was rewarding in many ways to have done it without any mishap, you know, so that sort of thing.
Great, thanks so much, Dr. Victor. Even in as much as you said that I should not call you doctor, yeah, you've earned it, and congratulations, you know. I really appreciated the gift you gave me, and I'm thinking the only just way is to give it back. So shall I have something for Dr. Victor, please? I brought you a little bit something, Doctor, and I'd like that you fit it. You know, it's a little bit chilly, and I know it's gonna help a little bit. I hope it fits.
Global traction, KTN News.
Yeah.
So I become a broadcaster.
Whichever way. You are already a photographer, so you aim so far away.
Okay, so this is what it says in the back, huh?
Yeah, so it's the name of the show, the name of the station, and my name.
Wow. Well,
Do you
thank
mind putting it on? We see if it fits.
Well, it will be quite a task, won't it? I mean, I have to take this off.
I mean, we have all the time.
And
You can get the help you need if you need any.
how
There
does
we
that
go.
look?
It fits.
Am I part of the team?
You are. You are part of the team, and thanks for the good work that you keep doing.
Well, I'm just an ordinary citizen,
Playing their part in
Yes.
building the community.
relaxing and observing and making notes. That's how I would put it, yeah.
How do you unwind?
I unwind with photography. I unwind with jazz.
Do you play any jazz instruments?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
Yes.
great.
I'm the consummate critic. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time. Yeah, I
You're
really
most welcome.
appreciate it.
You're most
And thanks
welcome.
so much for the book as well.
Yeah.
Got some insights from Victor KISOB's story. I hope you learned something and you enjoyed the show. Many thanks for watching today, and make sure you join us again next Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Kenyan time only on KTN News. If you have a story you'd like to share with us, please don't hesitate. Write to us through globetraction@standardmedia.co.ke or DM us on our social media platforms at globetraction or at KTN News KE. You can also tap that follow button to me on my social media platforms at Fasil Telewa on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok for more behind the scenes and many other amazing stories. But until then, I hope to see you again soon, same time, same place. Bye-bye for now.